Welcome to another edition of Project 45 podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Michael.
And on today's show, we're going to discuss the recent tweets and comments from President Trump regarding Baltimore and the liberal meltdown, along with a sneak preview of some of the candidates that will be in this week's upcoming Democratic debate in Detroit. So let's get started. Our first topic, the recent tweets from President Trump regarding Baltimore set off a frenzy of uproar, calls of racism, CNN liberal meltdown, some fake news continues at CNN. So we're going to kind of go head first into that. Michael has the tweets from President Trump that was tweeted out, I believe, July 27th?
Yeah, July 27th.
So the 27th, just a few days ago. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael. He's going to read those tweets, and we'll go from there.
So Donald Trump says, Representative Elijah Cummings has been a brutal bully, shouting and screaming at the great men and women of Border Patrol about conditions at the southern border, when actually his Baltimore district is far worse and more dangerous. His district is considered the worst in the USA. He goes on to say, as proven last week during a congressional tour, the border is clean, efficient, and well run, just very crowded. Cummings' district is a disgusting, rodent-infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. Donald Trump goes on to say, why is so much money sent to Elijah Cummings' district when it is considered the worst run and most dangerous anywhere in the United States? No human being would want to live there. Where is all this money going? How much is stolen? Investigate this corrupt mess immediately.
So those are the tweets that set off like I said, a liberal meltdown, if you will, a continuation of the meltdown. So basically, we've got CNN, Victor, I believe it was Victor Blackwell.
Right, yeah, Victor Blackwell.
You pointed this out recently, that he tried to equate the tweets from Donald Trump as racist and a direct
assault on black and brown people.
Yeah, an assault on black and brown people. If you got that from that series of tweets, then maybe you need to step back and question what's going on in your mind, because nothing about that is racist.
It's calling out a fact.
Right. Is calling out a fact now in America? Are we at the point in America that calling out a fact is considered racist if the recipient of your comment is a black or brown person? If you're a black or brown person, are you now immune or impervious to being questioned? Because to question you is now, by the Democratic Party standard, racist. And they're taking a word that has some very powerful meaning and that has some history associated not only in this country but throughout the world on all aspects, from white people to brown people or black people. You're sitting here and you're tossing a word around with devalues the actual meaning of racism. And I think that's where we're headed toward, that we're devaluing the fact of the actual true meaning of racism, so that to the point when America really experiences true racism, we're not going to know. Future generations aren't going to understand what it is, because you're taking the word racist and racism,
and applying it to absolutely everything.
Right, you're applying it to things that occur every day. Is it racist to call out an actual fact that the city of Baltimore is in despair? I mean, is it a fact?
Or Elijah Cummings' district.
Elijah Cummings, yeah, his district specifically, because Elijah Cummings happens to be a black man.
Right.
So therefore it is inherently racist to question him. But Elijah Cummings has been in Congress for quite some time now, and his district has not improved. And that's factual information that you can go, and if you want to dig through the mind control crap of Google, which you're going to have to dig through, because if you put in, these things in Google and, Elijah Cummings and then add a negative word, you're not going to get an anti-Elijah Cummings response to your search. You're going to get an anti-Trump response. So
exactly, yeah.
If you're listening to CNN, even Fox News, if you're listening to either one of those series of networks and you think the information they're giving you is factual, is true, is a solid piece of reporting, then you're under mind control.
Yeah.
You watch either network, you're going to have to take that information, do your own research, and then we've harped
critically.
Right, we've harped
Oh my God.
back to episode 1. Think critically to do so. So we're going to play for you the couple minutes of this. I mean, almost an Emmy award-winning presentation by Victor Blackwell of CNN. When he tries to equate, I believe he's trying to equate the fact that...
Well, he's actually trying to say that what Trump was saying in the tweet was he wasn't actually referring to vermin or rodents or rats in the tweet. He was actually referring to black people. When he used the word infestation, he was referring to the black people or the brown people in Elijah Cummings' district in Baltimore were the infestation, and that's what's making the area corrupt or
uninhabitable.
I'm trying not to say asshole, but I can't get away from that term. It's a crap hole.
Yeah, it's a crap hole.
It's a crap hole. And we will show you that other people have said it's a crap hole.
Yeah,
so.
well, we're gonna dive into this a little bit more. I mean, just before we get into that, maybe I think the predominant theme that we're looking at here is that we're calling out these major cities that are predominantly controlled by Democratic governments, Democratic mayors, states with Democratic governors. So be it. I mean, we can
poverty knows no color.
Right.
It's like poverty is like a disease or drugs or anything like that. Poverty knows no race, and poverty can infect or infest any demographic that you can imagine.
And I think we could. That's the point where I was trying to get at is right here in our own backyard in the South in Tennessee. I can show you neighborhoods that are predominantly black, that are in despair. The housing is deplorable. The conditions are deplorable.
Exactly.
The neighborhoods are overrun by gangs.
Their own government assistance.
They've been on the doles of the government for years, and nothing's improved in their neighborhood. No amount of government assistance will lift you up out of that situation.
Nothing.
Because the intent of those programs is to keep you dependent upon the government, which therefore keeps those people who are providing it to you, i.e. Elijah Cummings, in power. So that Elijah Cummings doesn't have to experience the disparage that the people that are keeping him in power are experiencing.
Well, I mean, in all actuality, he doesn't, because realistically, I mean, he may have a Baltimore address, but he lives in Washington, D.C.
Right. I mean, you can go online and you can. I believe there was a fire that happened at his residence. His residence that is on his tax filing form as his primary residence. But if you go into the story, Baltimore News reported the source of the fire was a tenant in his row house. That I assure you, the 200 block of Madison Avenue in Baltimore. Google map it and tell me if you think it's an S-hole, because it doesn't look like the S-hole that everybody's describing Baltimore is right now. But the fact is, it appears that address was rented out by Cummings, who probably lives somewhere else. And that's the same thing that we've seen with Maxine Water.
Yeah.
She doesn't live in her infested district, her rundown district, yet she claims that she's done so much for that district, yet those people their lives have not improved. Nancy Pelosi is another good example. She represents San Francisco. And
props to Laura Loomer for bringing the illegals over the wall.
Yeah, props.
Nancy Pelosi's.
Which she, yeah, walls don't work. In Nancy's case, they did not work. But Nancy represents a city that literally has developed an app or an online resource to track where human feces is on the street. It's gotten that bad that we have created an app so you know not to step in human feces on the street. Yet Nancy Pelosi, I assure you, does not have to walk down a street that has feces on it.
But because in all actuality, Nancy Pelosi lives in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
or in the D.C. metro area. And we've been to D.C., what, 4 times? 3 times?
Yeah, 4.
3 or 4 times. And D.C. is pristinely clean.
Yeah, I mean, at least the areas where the representatives are going to be in, where the tourists
Yeah.
are supposed to be in. And I'm sure, D.C., like every other major city, has its neighborhoods. And back to our point, here in rural South, in Tennessee, I can take you down the road to Chattanooga, and I can show you black neighborhoods that are in despair. I can take you to Nashville up the road, and I can show you black neighborhoods that are in despair. I can take you to Memphis, and I can show you an entire city that's in despair.
Yeah.
And they just happen to be predominantly black. Is it because they're black? I'm not in no way implying that, and neither is Donald Trump in his tweets. It just so happens to be those are democratically run cities. Nashville, Chattanooga, Memphis, democratic-run cities, and the crime rates are astronomical for those cities. We grew up near Chattanooga, and it's a beautiful city, but what they won't tell you is the crime and the shootings that go on daily in areas where they want tourists to be.
And they'll never say it's gang-related.
And they never say
it's all gangs.
They never say it. And it's gang-related. It's a fact. And is it racist if we call out the fact that these neighborhoods are riddled with that? Is it... You are lessening the real issue that's going on in those neighborhoods if you're distracting from fixing those issues and finding a solution. And let's cop out and say, oh, it's racist. It's racist because Cummings is black, and how dare you question him? How dare you?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at. How dare you question Elijah Cummings based on the fact that he's a black man? But I say, how dare you, as any man, as a representative of a district, allow a district continue to be as dilapidated as it is while you continue to get rich, as you continue to have power, and our neighborhoods continue along a path that they've continued along for years and years, where we have to the point where you have a mayor of this city saying it smells like rats and dead animals, which we're going to play for you later on. So, how dare you, CNN, how dare you, Elijah Cummings, and how dare you, members of Congress,
let's play this CNN clip,
to go this route and downplay the problems that are going on because you don't have a solution. And when you don't have a solution to the problem, in order to keep people in line and in your support, you've got to play emotion, you've got to play fear, and you've got to use a word that hits to the soul. And racism is that word. So we're going to play for you the Emmy Award-winning performance by Victor Blackwell and his CNN. I'm going to try to stomach this. So Michael, go ahead and play that clip right here. And
this morning, the president attacked another member of Congress on Twitter. This time, it's House Oversight Committee Chairman Elijah Cummings. He wrote this: Cummings' district is a disgusting, rat and rodent-infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. No human being would want to live there. Infested. That's usually reserved for references to rodents and insects, but we've seen the president invoke infestation to criticize lawmakers before. See a pattern here? Just 2 weeks ago, President Trump attacked 4 minority congresswomen. Why don't they go back to the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Reminder, 3 of them were born here. All of them are American. Infested, he says. A week before his inauguration, January 2017,
Omar is not American.
Congressman John Lewis should spend more time on fixing and helping his district. which is in horrible shape and falling apart, not to mention crime infested. Donald Trump has tweeted more than 43,000 times. He's insulted thousands of people, many different types of people. But when he tweets about infestation, it's about black and brown people. September 2014, at the height of an urgent health emergency, why are we sending thousands of ill-trained soldiers into Ebola-infested areas of Africa? Bring the plague to the U.S.? Obama is so stupid. Infested, he says. There's a revolution going on in California. So many sanctuary areas want out of this ridiculous crime-infested and breeding concept. Infested, he says. The president says about Congressman Cummings' district,
and he's welling up the fake tears
yeah,
right now.
right.
He's literally trying to weld them up.
that no human would want to live there. You know who did, Mr. President? I did. From the day I was brought home from the hospital to the day I left for college. And a lot of people I care about still do. There are challenges, no doubt. But people are proud of their community. I don't want to sound self-righteous.
Too late.
But people get up and go to work there. They care for their families there. They love their children who pledge allegiance to the flag, just like people who live in districts of congressmen who support you, sir. They are Americans too. We'll be right back.
So let's kind of break that down real quick before we
Well, let me just make this comment, and this is an excerpt from an article written for the Daily Wire entitled "Media Claim Trump is Racist for Infestation Rat Tweet About Baltimore." And this is an article written by Amanda Prestigiancamo. Sorry, I'm from the South. I can't say these Italian, Greek, whatever they are names. But Orkin Pest Control in 2018 ranked Baltimore number 9 on their most rat-infested cities in the United States. And they dropped 1 rank from 2017, and they were number 6 in 2015. 2 years ago, it was number 6 on the Orkin list. So in 2015, according to Orkin Pest Control, Baltimore was the number 6 ranked most rat-infested city in the United States. So is Orkin racist? I don't think so.
Maybe Orkin, by Democratic standards, maybe Orkin.
Maybe they are racist.
Maybe Orkin is
maybe
racist.
They're racist.
So what Victor Blackwell pointed out, crime-infested, Ebola-infested, those aren't racist terms. What he's trying to implicate are these are serious concerns that happen to affect a black community. And they are underplaying, if you ask me. They're sitting there and saying, these can't be problems because they're black. These aren't real problems because they're black. It's racism.
Yeah.
When these are real problems with real Americans, regardless of your skin color. It just so happens to be that these are black countries or black neighborhoods where these issues are going on. It just so happens to be that these are neighborhoods that are predominantly occupied by brown people.
And that's the real question we should be asking, is why? Why are these predominantly black neighborhoods or predominantly black districts or predominantly black areas, why are they the ones that are so infested with crime, murder, rats, whatever, however you want to spin it? Why are the black communities so infested with these
right? Well, they keep
plagues?
Well, they keep these people on the cusp of hope. You know.
Well, hope and change.
Hope and change.
Yeah.
They tell you that I can change this, and I am the hope for changing that. Elijah Cummings probably goes out every time he goes out and campaigns and says, "I'm going to go up there."
We don't know specifics about Elijah Cummings.
No, we're just going to speculate.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's probably going to get out there and he's going to campaign. I'm going to go do this. We're on the verge of doing this. We're at the cusp of doing this. And now all what I'm on the cusp of doing, if you just send me back up there, I'm going to change it.
Yeah.
And it's not changed. It's not changed in Baltimore. It's not changed in cities here in Tennessee. It's not changed across America. What has remained constant is that the Democratic Party has monopolized the ability to victimize sets of individuals, whether it be black, Hispanic, LGBT.
Yeah.
You victimize those people and you come up with a problem, you create the problem, and you give them the solution.
Right.
And that's one thing that the Republican Party has lacked, is to reach out to those people, because the Democratic Party for years has embedded in these people's mind that Republicans are bad, in simple terms. Republican bad, racist, big bad white men.
Exactly.
Democrat Party, we're going to help you. When in fact, you look across the country, Baltimore, as a prime example that we're pointing out, Martin O'Malley, involved as the mayor, governor of Maryland, didn't do anything to change it. Mayor Catherine Pugh, a black woman, ran the city in a scandalous mayoral term, I might add.
She resigned in scandal.
Right, she resigned in scandal. She said the same exact thing that Donald Trump is saying today.
Well, before we play this clip about Miss Pugh, Mayor Pugh, the thing I cite the Republican Party for is the failure to call out Democrats on this fact. They have failed to call out the corruption. They have failed to call out Democrats on this whole everything's racist thing. I cite them on that. And that's where I can say that there's no difference between the Republican and the Democrat Party. The Republicans are complicit. The Republicans go along with this nonsensory that the Democrats carry on with, and they don't play hardball. And that's what we need. That's the difference between Trump and the current Republican Party. Thank God John McCain is dead. Thank God these people are dying, because that's the only way, obviously, we're going to get them out of their seats. But they are all complicit. They all go along with this Democrat-run, this idea that everything is racist, and nobody calls them out. Nobody calls them to the carpet. They just let them go. They just let them go. And that's where I say there's no difference between the Republican and the Democrat Party, because the Republicans are complicit. They let it go. They don't call it out. They don't say anything. They don't ask hardball questions. They don't question it. They don't go on Fox News, which is supposedly a conservative news source, which I beg to differ on that. But that's a whole other show, which hopefully we'll talk about.
Yeah, Chris Wallace, we're coming for you.
Chris Wallace. Oh, what a joke.
Get him off the air.
What a joke.
But keeping on point, Michael is right. The Republican Party is very complicit. The Republican Party has no spine. Mitch McConnell, weak. Paul Ryan, he was weak. Mitt Romney as a candidate, weak. Mitt Romney as a senator, he's weak.
He's weak. He's a Democrat.
Mitt
Romney is a Democrat.
There's no difference between these two parties right now, because we need someone, and that's why Donald Trump is getting the kickback that he's getting, is because he's willing to take on and call it out for what it is.
It is, yeah.
And the Democratic Party is being challenged on a stronghold that they've developed. They're being challenged on keeping black people and brown people corralled in this voting box, dependent upon them getting elected. And nothing changes when those people get elected. And even as a white man, who, if we could look at it two ways. We could say, if Michael was a black man, you're going to vote for the Democrat because the Democrat holds your interest. And I'm going to vote as a white man, stereotype, typical, I'm going to vote for the Republican because they hold my interest. But at the end of the day, when the black guy votes for the Democratic Party and the Democratic Party gets in control, and at the end of the day, when the white guy votes for the Republican Party and then the Republican Party is in control, the truth of both of those situations is nothing really truly changes for either of those people.
No.
Because there's no difference right now between any of those parties. The end result for these people that have been in there for years and years and years is control and power.
Control and power.
Nothing changes for the black guy. Nothing changes for the poor white guy in the end.
Or the middle class.
Or the middle class. Go around here where we're from, here in Tennessee, and anywhere in the South, and I'm sure anywhere in the North, and you're going to find white people living in infested communities.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've seen those communities. I've seen white communities that I can't believe this is how people live. I can't believe that kids are living in this situation. I've had rats crawl up my pants leg in a white home before. I've heard the rats crawling up the walls. I've seen the trash piled up in the yards. I've seen the children with diaper rashes, the mom that doesn't have a job, the dad that is trying to work and doesn't make enough to feed the kids. I've seen those in all sides, regardless of color. And that goes back to what Michael said. Poverty knows no boundaries. Poverty knows no color. Crime knows no color.
No.
In the end. These are not color issues. To call out a community in despair, whether it is black, white, Asian, brown, red, green, whatever, is not a racist issue. It's a factual problem that needs to be addressed. You don't believe that Baltimore is in a condition? Then listen to this clip from Mayor Catherine Pugh, her recent tour, or tour a few years ago, several years ago, of Baltimore. This is a black mayor of Baltimore touring the community on the ground. Do you hear Victor Blackwell calling Catherine Pugh a racist? Do you hear CNN?
Well, she's black. She can't be racist.
Calling Catherine Pugh a racist? Are they questioning her remarks, the same remarks as President Trump, as racist? No, because it doesn't fit their narrative that the white Donald Trump is a racist, because the end result is not to fix the problem of these communities, but it is to ensure that the Democratic Party has control in 2020.
Yeah.
That's the end game result. So here's Mayor Catherine Pugh and her comments on a local Baltimore station after she toured that same neighborhood Elijah Cummings represents.
About a year ago, city leaders identified some of the city's most violent neighborhoods.
What the hell? We should just take all this down.
To target
Ooh, we can smell the rats.
under Baltimore's Violence Reduction Initiative.
Ooh, Jesus.
Just last week, we went with Mayor Pugh as she toured an East Baltimore neighborhood.
It's a new one. I've been at it 54 years. It's a new one.
Baltimore's Violence Reduction Initiative is about taking steps to rid communities of the cornerstones that contribute to crime.
Oh my God, you can smell the dead animals.
Blocks of dilapidated buildings help to hide the addiction that's crippled this community.
So, I mean, there you got it. Mayor Pugh, Baltimore mayor, black lady, she sat there in her interview and said, you can smell the rats.
Smell the rats.
You can smell the dead
Well,
animals.
first of all, she said we should just bulldoze.
Yeah, we should tear this S down.
Yeah.
We should just tear this S down.
Yeah.
Smells like it smells like dead animals.
You can smell the rats. You can smell the dead animals.
She said, "Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, this
She was
nasty.
appalled.
It's nasty."
Mm-hmm.
So is she a racist? Is she racist if she was white Catherine Pugh? By CNN standards, maybe she was racist if she's a white Catherine Pugh. But black Catherine Pugh, She's just pointing out the
The
disparity.
reality, the facts.
But she's pointing out, oh, Catherine Pugh says this, and oh, we need some help. We need help from Washington, D.C. We need help from the government. Why isn't the government coming in here? But when Donald Trump says, why isn't Elijah Cummings held responsible as the representative for ensuring that that district gets the help that it needs? Oh, that's racist.
Yep.
But it's not racist when a black lady, a black mayor, calls it out. Oh, the government should help us. Elijah Cummings is the government for Baltimore.
Yep. It's true.
He is responsible for that. And the people of Baltimore should wise up and realize that Elijah Cummings does not have your best interest at heart. He has Elijah Cummings' best interest at heart. And it goes a step further. Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders toured Baltimore.
Oh, he did.
Mr.
Yeah.
White, Bernie
2015.
Sanders.
This was 2015.
2015. Bernie Sanders in the heart of Baltimore. Same neighborhoods as Catherine Pugh. Same district as Elijah Cummings.
Yep.
Same neighborhood that President Trump's calling out. Let's listen to what Bernie Sanders had to say about that neighborhood.
The crowded tour through West Baltimore, clearly an eye-opener for Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. What are your impressions as you walk our city?
Well, one would not know that you're living in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. What you look at is what would a third world country look like. That's a pretty sad state of affairs.
Sanders tour guides along Pennsylvania and North Avenues, local clergy members on a mission.
I wanted him to see it as a potential president, the real work that has to be done in the city.
The presidential candidate also visited the now infamous area where police arrested Freddie Gray in April.
It is stunning that we're less than an hour away from the White House and the United States Congress.
We spoke with an undecided voter watching the scene unfold.
But make changes. We need changes.
Are you worried this is just sort of a press opportunity?
Exactly, like everyone else. All for the media, you know? Is it going to make a difference?
Religious leaders from Baltimore and other urban areas were seeking that difference, and they met with Sanders at the Freddie Gray Empowerment Center to discuss issues like education, racial profiling, incarceration, and capital investment.
This time around, we cannot just give our vote away to either the Democrat or the Republican Party. We do not want just empty promises. We wanted to hear a plan and a policy.
Tomorrow, this same group will travel to Washington, where they will meet with Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, who also wants to be president, and they would like to also have a meeting with Hillary Clinton. Live at the Freddie Gray Empowerment Center, Deborah Weiner, WBAL, TV 11 News.
So there you got Bernie Sanders touring the same neighborhood during his campaign, and he basically compared that to a third world country. Is Bernie Sanders a racist? Michael? Is he a racist?
No, I don't know. He might be a racist. He said it's a third world country. So we're talking about, let's just put it in perspective. We're talking about Guatemala. We're talking about Honduras. We're talking about Ecuador, Brazil. So these are just some third world countries.
And what do those third world countries have in common?
Squalor, poverty.
And skin color wise, would you say
Brown?
Oh, there we go. There's the common denominator. Bernie Sanders compares Baltimore to
Brown
third world countries that are brown. Bernie Sanders, you are a racist by this standard, and therefore you should drop out of the presidential campaign because you, sir, are a racist.
Yeah.
And racists have no place in American society. So
No.
you, sir, are a Donald Trump racist. I think the most appalling thing that we heard out of this report, one, the most obvious thing that was absent from this report, there was no Elijah Cummings.
Nope.
No Elijah Cummings mentioned in this meeting. No Elijah Cummings on tour. No Elijah Cummings showing Bernie Sanders around the district. Maybe he wasn't too embarrassed of the fact that his district was a complete S-hole.
Yep.
The clergy in this clip stated that they're looking for change. They're looking for help. They're looking for some.
They're looking to the White House.
They're less than an hour away from Washington D.C. Yet where Elijah Cummings, sits and represents this community. Yet the community, even by Bernie Sanders standards, is third world country, and that's pretty bad for a socialist. That you compare it to a third world country.
Yeah. He said uninhabitable.
Uninhabitable. An abomination of a neighborhood that Bernie Sanders is appalled by. And here, I got to ask myself, how does Elijah Cummings keep getting elected when you've got clergy standing up to a man then could be considered to be the Democratic nominee for president, and you talk about change and you talk about a new leadership, yet those people keep electing Elijah Cummings? How is that possible? How does a neighborhood demand change on a level that reaches the news on a national platform, that you demand change and we keep electing the same person? How is that possible?
How is it possible? I don't get it. I don't understand. It's the redirection. I think it is. I think it's the redirection of attention to the White House. Because if you listen to the clip, they thought it was appropriate for him to tour that district because he was a front runner for the White House. And they thought he could change. He could make a difference in the community. It wasn't Elijah Cummings that can make a difference. It was the president. And I'm sorry, but the president is not the one you need to look to make a difference. I mean, we lived through this in Tennessee. Lamar Alexander. I mean, what has Lamar Alexander done for Tennessee?
Nothing.
What did Bob Corker do for Tennessee?
Nothing. Tennessee is no better off because Lamar Alexander.
Alexander has been a representative in Tennessee for decades. He's
80-something years old.
He's 80-something years old. We were at the governor's inauguration, and he was there, and they announced his resignation. And I can't tell you one thing that Lamar Alexander has done for Tennessee. I don't know.
Me neither. I mean, you can't. Lamar Alexander was the governor of this state. He was the 45th governor of this state. He went on to be Secretary of Education, and then he became the United States Senator since 2003. And I can't name one thing that Senator Lamar Alexander has done for the state of Tennessee. I can't tell you the last time Lamar Alexander's even came to the area where we're at. You don't see any of our representatives in Tennessee.
No.
Scott Desjardins is a part of the Freedom Caucus. I will say that I've seen him more than any other representative.
But that's because you campaigned with
Well, I campaigned against the guy for various reasons. He's a liar, and he doesn't truly stand for his Republican values. He's asked for abortions for his mistresses, but and he's a doctor, and he doesn't know when life begins. And I'm not a doctor. I'm pretty dadburn sure that it begins at conception.
Yeah,
absolutely. If a heartbeat, the lack of a heartbeat is
death.
Is the determination of death, then the presence of a heartbeat must be the determination of life.
Yeah.
And Scott Desjardins was unable in a Senate hearing, I believe, or when asked, he was unable as a medical professional doctor to determine when life begins. And Scott Desjardins is a pawn. He comes to events here in Tennessee. He's ushered in, and he's ushered right out, and his contact with voters is pretty limited. Lamar Alexander, I haven't seen Lamar Alexander other than the governor's inauguration. I haven't seen Senator Bob Corker. Ever.
Oh, except at the Trump rally in Nashville when he was booed.
Booed off the stage.
Booed off the stage.
The people of Tennessee booed Bob Corker off of the stage
which
in
is
Nashville.
Probably why he didn't run for re-election.
Oh, he couldn't get elected dog catcher in Tennessee at this point.
No.
Because we've wised up. And the people of Baltimore need to wise up to the fact that Elijah Cummings doesn't give a crap about your community. Or things would have changed. Your mayor wouldn't be touring the district and
bulldoze this shit.
saying bulldoze this S down. It smells like rats and dead animals.
Yeah.
Can you imagine living in a community that smells like rats and dead animals?
Oh, Philadelphia, Chinatown.
Philadelphia, Chinatown. But I mean, imagine anyone in America getting up every day and your neighborhood smells like death. It smells like sewage. It smells like filth. It has rats running rampant. Crime is out of control. You don't know if you can lay your head down at night without your stuff being stolen, your house being broken into, your kids walking to school and crying. Tell me that's the neighborhood you want to live in,
No.
regardless of what color you want your skin is, because it happens across the board. It happens whether you're in black, or it happens whether you're Hispanic, and it happens whether you're white. You don't hear about white neighborhoods because it doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't scare those people into a voting bloc. The Democrats have secured black and brown and Asian and LBGTQ, RSB, WXYZ into a box so that they vote for those people over and over and over. And the end result is nothing changes.
Because it's a victim class.
Victim class.
They've created a victim
Stop
class
being
of
a
people.
victim, America. Wake up and realize that Elijah Cummings and those people don't care about you. Vote those people out of there. Vote Nancy Pelosi out of there.
Yeah.
She doesn't care about women's rights because she's living high on the hog.
Yeah.
Who cares about mainstream America? Who cares you're living in a rat-infested community? Who cares you've got to step over human feces to get to work or your daily chores done each day if you live in San Francisco? Who cares?
Well, Diamond and Silk did a good documentary on Maxine Waters' district and also Nancy Pelosi.
Oh yeah,
district.
check it out.
Check it out.
It's on.
Go seek it out.
I believe it's on Netflix or
I
Amazon
think
Prime.
So, yeah.
The Dummycrats.
Oh, Democrats.
The
Yeah,
Dummycrats.
that's what it is.
Check it out.
Yeah, check
Props
it
to
out.
Diamond and Silk. Fantastic job.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it's even here in our own district. When I go to these neighborhoods as I am involved in the law
And
enforcement.
how many of these people don't vote?
They don't, because they don't
vote.
They don't vote because they've been told their vote doesn't matter, and they've been told that that person's going to win anyway. Elijah Cummings is going to win anyway.
Or they're just low education.
Yeah.
And that's the I think that's the crux of what we're talking about, is that they're low educated, they're not informed, and they just don't vote.
Well, that could be the plight of the education system of America. If we keep you uneducated and dumb, then you can't catch on to what we're actually doing.
Charlotte Iserbyt wrote a fantastic book called The Intentional Dumbing Down of America. Read it.
It is, and you've got to wake up, America, and realize that what's going on in mainstream media and CNN and Fox News and those people, that is absolute mind control. And you can sit there and say that, oh, you're talking cuckoo now. You're not talking my language anymore. I can't follow that. You're going off the deep end. It is mind control.
It's mind control.
Because CNN isn't worried about reporting the facts. They're not worried about the fact that Baltimore is a crap hole. They're not worried about that. They're worried about the Democratic Party staying in control because they've monetized the business. They've monetized the business of the Democratic Party. And that is their end goal. And I think I'm going to read to you something that we came across today, and I think it's really telling in the truth and the lies that are going on in America. And then we'll kind of switch gears and go on to cover a couple of these Democratic candidates before we end the show. But this is a 19th century legend that was written by Jean Léon Jerome in 1896. And according to his legend, he wrote, the truth and the lie meet one day. The lie says to the truth, it's a marvelous day today. The truth looks up at the sky and he sighs, for the day was really beautiful. They spend a lot of time together, ultimately arriving beside a well. The lie tells the truth, the water is very nice, let's take a bath together. The truth, once again suspicious, tests the water and discovers that it indeed is very nice. So they undress and they start bathing. Suddenly the lie comes out of the water, puts the clothes on of the truth, and runs away. The furious truth comes out of the well and runs everywhere to find the lie and to get her clothes back. The world, seeing the truth naked, turns its gaze away with contempt and rage. The poor truth returns to the well and disappears forever, hiding therein its shame. Since then, the lie travels around the world, dressed as the truth, satisfying the needs of society, because the world, in any case, harbors no wish at all to meet the naked truth. And that is what we are facing today, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for America to wake up and realize what is going on before you today in our government. The purpose of the federal government is to lie and to manipulate and to control people in this country. Whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're brown, whether you're orange, whether you're red. The purpose of the United States government is to put you in a category, to subdivide us, as we've told you all along, and make sure that they have control over you. Because if we can subdivide the masses, then we can control the mass. It's hard to control a wild herd of buffalo, but if we can separate that one buffalo, I can control that one buffalo. I can handle his behavior. So we're asking you, you don't have to agree with everything that this says in this podcast. You can determine for yourself as a educated individual the truth and what you want to believe. But the goal all along of this podcast is to invoke critical thinking. And that's what you got to do in this situation right here. Nothing that Donald Trump tweeted in the last few days is racist. What is racist is the fact that these problems have allowed to remain in these neighborhoods as a source of control. It's modern day control. It's modern day slavery. To sit here and say you're black and your neighborhood sucks, and to challenge a black man is a racist. To challenge the leaders of a black community is racist, because you're shedding a light where a light does not want to be shown. Because shining that light there will show the cockroaches from underneath the foundation of our government.
Yeah.
And that's what we're facing today.
That's what we're facing. So with that, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is, I think...
the candidates that are... We're going to touch real quick and we're going to wrap this thing up.
I feel like we've already touched on Bernie Sanders.
We've touched on Bernie. So let's turn our attention, since we're talking about racism in America, and let you hear a clip from the Democratic front-runner for the Democratic Party and the debates that are coming this week.
This is my favorite clip of everything.
From Detroit. So we're going to listen. It's about a 3-minute clip, so hang in there. It's Joe Biden and pretty much all of the racist things that Joe Biden said. And I'm going to say, if I change the author of these words to Donald Trump, the left media would be absolutely and complete total code red meltdown.
Yeah.
So this is Joe Biden. This is Joe Biden at his best, being a racist.
In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking. Even call centers was rushed overseas in the hundreds of thousands. How many times you get the call? I'd like to talk to you about your credit card. I'd like to talk to you about your credit card.
It's a large, very identifiable Somali community. I might add, if you ever come to the train station with me, you'll notice that I have great relationships with them because there's an awful lot of driving cabs.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who was articulate and bright and clean, and nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Yeah. What kind of a chance would a northeastern liberal like Joe Biden stand in the South if you were running in Democratic primaries against Southerners like Mark Warner and John Edwards?
Better than anybody else. Now, you don't know my state. My state was a slave state. My state is a border state. My state is the 8th largest black population in the country. My state is anything from a northeast liberal state. Look at what they value and look at their budget and what they're proposing. Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains. My son is Attorney General. A year in Iraq, came back, and that's one of the things that he finds was most in need. When he was over there in Iraq for a year, people would come to him and talk about what was happening at home in terms of foreclosures, in terms of bad loans that were being, these Shylocks who took advantage of these women and men all overseas. I stopped in Singapore to meet with a guy named Lee Kuan Yew, who most foreign policy experts around the world say is the wisest man in the Orient. It's not rocket science, guys. We did it up in Michigan. When Detroit found out they didn't have all the exodus, they didn't have people when the city got back on its feet who could literally turn on the street lights, run the water system. So we hired some folks to go into the neighborhoods. They picked 58 women, turns out, from the hood for a 17-week program, if my memory serves me correctly, to learn how to code. Not one had more than a high school degree. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
I mean, you put those same phrases in Donald Trump's hands or his mouth, and I'm going to tell you, the liberal media would absolutely be up in arms.
Oh, yeah.
Call centers are Indians. Cab drivers are Pakistanis. People from the hood learning how to code.
Yeah, you can't go to a Dunkin' Donuts without a slight Indian accent.
Yeah, you can't go to Dunkin' Donuts without a slight Indian accent. It's not possible.
It's a boo. It's a poo.
It's a poo from the Simpsons. You cannot go
yeah.
there. Get the heck out of here, Joe Biden. This is a double standard that the Democratic Party refuses to acknowledge.
Well, coupled with that, his statements that he worked with segregationists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's working with segregationists.
And I'm not supporting Kamala Harris, but she called him out.
Oh, Christ almighty, can we not support Kamala Harris? The Democratic Party, the candidates that these people have in this debate, man, this is a circus coming to your town. Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
God forbid, Detroit.
Well,
you have a circus. Yeah, I've been to Detroit, and it looks like the apocalypse took place.
Oh.
It looks like an apocalypse took place. That's the next. If Baltimore is worse than Detroit, God help the people.
God bless America.
God bless America and the people of Baltimore. You've got Joe Biden. He's got a history of racist remarks. And I'm not going to sit here. Honestly, those remarks that Joe Biden said, they're not racist. They're factual statements. None of those are racist comments. He didn't say, "Oh, those people are lesser because of their race or their their whatever."
Because that's what racism really
It
is.
is.
Racism really is the supremacy of a
Particular race over another
particular race.
And none of those comments that Joe Biden said, none of those comments that President Trump said are racist. They're racist in the context that I need that word to be the spear thrown from the mighty hands of the Democratic Party through the heart of those unintelligible voters that are desperate for emotion.
If my news intellect is accurate, AOC called Nancy Pelosi racist.
Yeah. She did call Nancy Pelosi racist, but then she's out there meeting with a known racist in her context.
Yeah, so
she's out there meeting and colluding and working with a known racist from her point of view. So does that make Ocasio-Cortez a racist? Perhaps
or
it does.
Is she colluding?
Or is she colluding with racists?
Well, what's the definition of collusion?
Who knows? Maybe Mueller can come out of retirement. Somebody can check him out of the nursing home and give him his medication so he can be lucid. And
hopefully that's next week. We'll talk
that's
about
next
Mueller.
week. That's next week. Bob Mueller is released from the local nursing home and can actually remember what the hell is in his report because we're pretty sure he didn't write it.
He did not write that report.
So one more candidate we're going to highlight because I think we covered Bernie Sanders. I know there's some controversy that he's not even paying his staff $15 an hour.
Oh my
he
God.
decided to pay them.
We should talk about this.
Yeah, he decided to pay them $15 an hour, but in the fashion that we predicted, the hours got cut.
They got cut.
You can have $15 an hour, but hey, you can't work the normal amount of hours.
So in actuality, you're not earning more. You're working this. You're working less hours for the same pay.
Right. So if Bernie Sanders was president and you're working your job now, and he's like, oh, okay, the McDonald's per employee can get $15 an hour, and you're working currently at $7, $8, $9 an hour, whatever you're making at McDonald's, and you're working 40 hours a week, and you're making X dollars, and it's like, okay, well, you can make $15 an hour, but now you're only going to work half of what you're working now. So you're not going to work 40 hours. You're going to work 20 hours. So 20 hours equals 40 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
But you're not really making your ends meet because you're still making the same as you're working
making
40.
The same money. Well, I can attest to this with Amazon. Amazon several months ago announced that they were going to pay their employees a base pay of $15 an hour. But what Amazon didn't tell you is that they were cutting their stock plans. They were cutting their VCP, which is a variable compensation pay, where you would get basically a bonus every month if you showed up to work on time and worked your scheduled hours. They didn't tell you that. So in all actuality, they cut pay to give you the $15 an hour. And the employees that had worked there for 5, 10, 15 years, I worked at Amazon for 4 years. I made $14.75 an hour when I left Amazon. And Amazon would have raised my pay 25 cents. And what they didn't tell you is the people that had been there long term, they did not give them a raise. So the people that had been there for 5 years and started out at $11 an hour, when they boosted the base rate to 15, that means that the people who had started day one made $15 an hour, and the people who had been there for 5 years made $15 an hour.
So they basically, the 5-year employee who earned incremental raises for his time and his service there at Amazon and had worked his way up to $14+ an hour, which is $3 to $4 over the starting salary. didn't get that same compensation when they went to the $15 an hour.
No.
They didn't make $19 because of their time served.
No.
You know, the employee that just walked in the door got $15. The employee that had been there for 5, 6, 7 years, you got $15.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So, if you think $15 minimum wage and you're already working a $15 hour or close to a $15 hour job, that you're going to get that difference. Oh, those people are going to get 15, so therefore, I make $4 more than them already. I'm going to make 19. Sorry, you're not.
No, you're going to make 15.
And it's going to increase automation in low-income jobs such as fast food and customer service and places like Walmart, checkout lines. Those are going to be more and more automated so that those companies can continue to operate on budgets. Otherwise, that cost for the employees and the employer is going to be passed on to the consumer, and your cheeseburger at McDonald's, your dollar menu, is going to be the $5 menu.
Well, it's already the $1.25 menu.
Right. It's went up from $1.25. Now it's going to be the $5 double cheeseburger that looks like it's been ran over by a steamroller.
Yeah.
So if that's what you want, by far, go ahead and elect Bernie Sanders, and you'll beat the cold, dead end barrel of my gun when you come for my supplies. I'll tell you that right now. One other candidate we're going to highlight real quickly, and we're gonna wrap this thing up. Up and coming star. I know Kamala Harris. We're going to get to her. We're going to get to Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think. I mean, she's just an absurd, ridiculous candidate.
Well,
do we even need to cover her?
I know. Let's just point out the fact that most of the top 5 in the Democratic Party is by the Democratic Party standards, is a racist, a socialist, a liar as well, a socialist liar, a fake racist Pocahontas who lied about her.
Tell me what you told me about her lawsuits and the law firm she worked for.
Well, she claimed to fight for women. I'll have to go back and look it up to remember straight. But she claimed to be this champion of women. Yet she fought for companies, and I can't remember the company off the top of my head now. But she fought for a company that had sued for, I believe it was something to do with women's. I'll have to look it up. Before we go in here, we'll have to look it up.
Next time.
But basically, she tried to be a champion of women when she was a lawyer for the companies against corporations. The corporations. She was pro-corporation. Yeah, she was pro-corporation, and she fought tooth and nail to fight against these women who had these claims against these companies. But we'll look that up and we'll get back to that because I don't want to misinform you. I know we talked about it, but it's all this information, it's escaped me, but I want to make sure we're clear before we do that. But Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and I just want to, he's been deemed as an up-and-coming star, potential vice presidential candidate, because let's be honest, he's not going to be the nominee, but he is running for vice president. He's a former lieutenant with the Navy Reserve. He was deployed to Afghanistan in 2014. He was elected the mayor of South Bend, Indiana in 2011 and re-elected in 2015. Well, let's talk about South Bend, Indiana and the job that he's done there. The crime rate in South Bend, Indiana is 120% higher than the national average. The murder rate in 2017 was 16.79 per 100,000 people. 100,000 people. The population of South Bend is roughly 101,000 people, give or take a few. The murder rate was almost on point to cities 10 times the population of South Bend. I'm talking like cities Atlanta and Philadelphia. The murder rate in South Bend was comparable to cities 10 times its population. Atlanta, Philadelphia, comparable. Hispanic households in South Bend, the poverty rate was at 32%, higher than the national average for Hispanics across America. The median income for South Bend blacks in the community was $14,000 less than the national average for blacks across the country in America. And 40% of blacks in South Bend are below the poverty line, which is 2 times the national average. And the national the median income for blacks in South Bend was only $21,000.
$21,000.
$21,000.
Oh my gosh!
And I mean, that's just Pete Buttigieg in a nutshell. So, fake Indian, fake black lady, Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, fake black.
She's using the skin tone of her person to.
Well, she's that girl.
She's that girl. She's that girl that got bust. That we'll probably have to dig into that, but I very seriously, she probably didn't get bust anywhere but to the upscale private community, because you just don't become Attorney General of California by sleeping your. Wait a minute.
Oh, she
did sleep her away. Did. She slept her away. Oh,
my God.
Scratch that. Womp womp. Oh well. We'll get in next time.
Yeah.
We're going to watch the debate this week. Tune in, because we're going to be tuning in because we love a good circus.
Yes.
We love a good circus. And we're going to come back and try to highlight those things. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris. We're going to get into that Elizabeth Warren. I'm going to find that information that Michael was talking about, where she was, pro-corporation and anti-woman. So these people, in a nutshell, they are lying to you, and you're being brainwashed. You're being mind controlled. Wake up, America, to what's going on in this country. We are truly in an epic battle for the very soul of our country, and that's where we're at today. And if you don't wake up, it's going to be too late. There are things worth fighting for, and the freedom and the foundation in which this country is founded upon, our culture as Americans, our way of life in America is truly worth fighting for.
Yeah, and if there's a Democrat candidate that I would say watch or listen to what she says, even though she's quite cuckoo, it's Marianne Williamson.
Oh, yeah.
She made a statement on the first, or was it?
Yeah, it was the first debate.
It was the first debate. She was on the first debate. She made a statement on the first debate about the healthcare system. And her statement was basically, why are we talking about
the healthcare system?
The healthcare system as in crisis-based healthcare or disease-based
reactionary
healthcare. Why aren't we going to the source or questioning why all of these diseases are happening? And they basically cut her off.
Oh yeah, they dismissed her. They cut her off and they dismissed her as a cuckoo.
And you cannot find that clip anywhere.
Yeah, it's very hard to find. We've done a Google search and you can't find it. I mean, she's basically been whitewashed from the internet. But she made a very, very pointed statement, and I'm sure we'll probably do a show on this, and this is one of Michael's good, fields of expertise. But, I mean, we firmly believe that the government is in the business of population control.
Oh, yeah.
For various reasons. And we'll try to put together a show on that. But we're going to wrap it up for today. We're going to call it quits. As we have been doing for the last few shows, we're going to end the show with a prayer for our leaders and a prayer for our nation. I'm going to turn that over to Michael for that.
And going back to this 19th century author or artist who made a comment or a poem about the truth and the lie. And it's very poignant because it's echoed in Romans chapter 1, verse 24-25. It says, "Therefore God gave them up in the lust of their own hearts to sexual impurity, the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, abandoning them to the degrading power of sin, because they exchanged I'm going to read that again. Because they exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. Romans tells us there that they exchanged. And in the poem, or the whatever that Jack read earlier, the lie coaxed the truth to the well. And there was an exchange that happened. And the exchange that happened was the lie took on the truth's clothes, so that the public or the people seeing it couldn't distinguish the truth from the lie. The lie took on the costume of the truth. They exchanged the truth for the lie. And when the public saw the truth naked, they turned their face away. That's exactly what Romans chapter 1, verse verse 25 is saying, because they exchanged the truth of God for a lie. So, Father God, right now in the name of Jesus, we come to you in the most humble and solemn way, because that's the way you tell us to come to the throne of grace. And we come to you knowing that this nation has exchanged the truth of you for a lie. We have turned our face away from the truth, and we would rather accept a lie and the deception of our government, the deception of the media, rather than receive the truth. And we ask you right now in the name of Jesus for the light of the truth. For the light of the truth to come through the windows of our souls, which is our eyes, and illuminate us. And we ask you for this lie of racism to be dispelled from our nation. And this lie that the media propels and perpetuates, that we are a racist country, that we are not. Because I don't see this racism. I don't see this exemplified in my daily life. And the majority of America does not either, because we have traveled and we know. I have been around the world and I don't see this. And I ask you right now in the name of Jesus, in the name of Jesus, that this nation exchange the lie for the truth. And we go forward, not into communism, not into socialism, but into freedom. The freedom that America was established on. The freedom that the founding fathers intended for this nation. We ask you that right now in the name of Jesus. And I pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, and all that trespass before us. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is in front of you. It's in front of you whether you watch Fox, it's in front of you whether you watch CNN. The truth is in between the lies. The truth is cloaked in the lie. It's up to you to look beyond the exterior and into the interior, beyond the clothing, beyond the cloak, and find the truth that's inside there. It starts in your community. It starts in those communities in Baltimore. It starts in those communities across the nation that are very similar. You cannot keep electing the same people and expect a different result. You cannot be controlled by those lies. Those people cannot go unchallenged in their primaries. They cannot go unchallenged in their elections throughout and through in. People such as Nancy Pelosi, people such as Elijah Cummings, Maxine Waters, Ocasio-Cortez, Mitch McConnell, the Paul Ryans that are still left, the Lamar Alexanders of Tennessee. Those people cannot go uncontested and us expect something to change. There's an old saying when you go to elect somebody and you've got two people, and the one person says to the other person, it's not my representative that's the problem, it's your representative problem. And that person says, oh, it's not my person that's the problem, it's your person that's the problem. And in the end, those two people get reelected again. Those people are your problem. They're our problem. If we don't elect people from a local, state, and national level that truly care about returning the government to the people, ensuring that the federal government shrinks, ensuring that your state government works for you, that your local government works for you, that they're not creeping ever so slightly through the method of taxation towards socialism, because it is creeping upon us today. And if you don't open your eyes to the truth that is going on now, you will surely be the slave of that institution. Because those people will need those slaves to ensure that the Elijah Cummings, the Nancy Pelosi's, and the Maxine Waters stay in power. So wake up and pay attention to what's going on in your government, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, because there's lies amongst each side. And they have done a great job, whether you're red or blue, right or left, Republican, Democrat, to pit us against each other, because those that are fighting amongst each other are too distracted to see what's going on in the ivory tower that rules upon them. I'm Jack, and
I'm Michael.
We have been your host for today. We hope that you will continue to follow our podcast as we continue to broaden our episodes. We learn on a daily basis. If you got any feedback, be sure to follow us on Twitter at the Project_45. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Project45MAGA, MAGA. You can also shoot us an email at Project45MAGA@gmail.com. Give us your feedback, show ideals, let us know if you like it, you hate it. Your opinion does matter, and we're still going to work on getting this live on Facebook in the future so that we can interact with you. But again, the truth is out there. You just got to seek it. Seek the truth.
I encourage you, all Christians, read your Bible Read your Bible and research the truth.
Research the truth. Until next time, have a good week. Go out there and do good things in America. Do good things in your community.